We're going to start the part 1 of 2 of 2-6 special functions. Special functions can get a little bit confusing, so I would really like to break it up into 2 days like this. So the first thing we need to talk about is piecewise defined function. It's a function that is written using 2 or more expressions. And then you should already know this, but a closed circle means included, an open circle means not included. So take a second, write that down, and then we're going to do some. All right, example 1. It's going to tell us to graph these 2 functions, and we're going to identify domain and range later. That's kind of too much today, so we'll do domain and range tomorrow. So it's going to say graph f of x. If you remember, f of x is really a y. X minus 2 if x is less than -1. And then the other line is x plus 3 if x is greater than or equal to -1. So just go ahead and watch me do this. Take a minute and just watch and, listen, and it's going to be a little bit confusing at first, but you'll be okay. So what we're going to do for now is I go ahead and I graph one line at a time. I'm going to graph just x minus 2, the line. So don't think about anything else, just graph y equals x minus 2. So ignore this and ignore this. That's no big deal. So where do we start? M is 1 over 1, b is -2, so we start down 2, and we go up 1, right 1. That's good enough, but on these type of problems, you might want to go up 1, right 1 a couple of times, or down 1, left 1, just to get the best graph possible. So I'm going to go ahead and graph my line. Obviously, it's not straight. That's hard for me to do on here. So this is the line. That part is easy. Here's the part that's new to you. They only want the piece, which is why it's called piecewise function, where x is less than -1. So we go on our graph to the x-axis to -1, which is right here. I see where it hits my line right here. And then if you look, this would be an open circle. Let me get rid of what I underlined so you're not confused there. It's going to be an open circle where x is -1. So again, go to where x is -1 to my graph, and I need to make it an open circle. Well, that erased my line, but you get what I'm saying. So at -1, it was down 1, left 1 again, right here, open circle. Now, do they want the left side of the graph or the right side? If they're saying x is less than -1, that's going to be the left side. If you go back to the number line stuff that we did, if this is the only thing I'd given you, you would have done this, open to the left. Remember that? So it's the same thing. This is open to the left. So I'm going to erase everything on the right side. So look at that again. We graph the whole line, and then we only want this piece. So I go on the x-axis to this part, so -1, and it hit right here. It's an open circle because there's no line, and then with the left side because it's pointing left. So as long as you have the first dot and the second dot, that's good enough. Let's try the next one. X plus 3. So for now, we're just going to graph x plus 3. Don't worry about anything else. It doesn't have to be hard. So we're just going to graph y equals x plus 3 because that's what this really says. It says y equals x plus 3. So this is already part of the answer, so don't touch it, okay? So we start up 3, and then from there you go up 1, right 1 a couple of times, and I go down 1, left 1 a couple of times, just to make sure I have a really good line, even though it's not straight. Okay? So we've already graphed the line. That's the easy part for you. Now it goes on the x-axis to -1 again. So on the x-axis to -1, and here's where it hits. Is that going to be an open or a closed circle? Closed. Well, that's already closed, so I don't have to worry about that. Do they want the left side or the right side? If it's greater than or equal to, which side do they want? They want the right side. Again, if that's confusing for you, go back to how we used to do it. That would be closed to the right. You already know that. So it's going to be closed to the right. So I'm going to erase the left side. Everything to the left of that dot, which this is going to erase my whole line. Of course, I don't want that, but -1 was here, closed circle. Everything to the right is still good. So again, pretend that's a straight line. I'm sorry, it's not. I'll try again. That's better. It's okay that you have extra dots, but you have to have at least the first ordered pair and the second ordered pair. After that, you don't need any more. That's a good enough line. Look at this one again, pause it, maybe replay it, and then we're going to go backwards. So like I already said, we're going to do domain and range later. Don't worry about that now. This is example 2 on page 102. I went ahead and took a picture of it for you, so maybe we can just kind of look at it together. What they want us to do is write the equation of the graph that we see. So we're going to go backwards. So here's how I do it. I see 3 lines, okay? So I say 1, 2, 3. I'm going to get 3 answers if something, if something, if something. So put it in slope-intercept form. That's our first part. That's going to be these answers. So I'm going to look at just this line first, the one on the left. Usually we go left to right, okay? So what is the M and B of my line on the left? If you look, B is up 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I know it's going to be something x plus 3. Does that make sense to you? Okay, now what's my slope? It looks like it's up to right 1 or down to left 1. It's the same thing. So I'm going to fill in my slope, which was 2. 2 over 1, if you're graphing it, is fine. But if you're just saying the answer, you need to just have a 2. So let's not worry about the right side of this yet. Let's just focus on saying what the lines are for right now. Okay, for the middle one, we need to see what our slope is and what our y-intercept is. I don't know what my y-intercept is yet because it's not crossing the y-axis, but if I were to extend the line, I would know. So let's find our slope and go from there. It looks like the slope is down 1, right 1. So negative 1x. If I were to keep following it, down 1, right 1, I'm not going to get to the y-intercept. So instead, I've got to go up 1, left 1. So if I go up 1, left 1, where is my y-intercept? It's at 2. So negative 1x plus 2. Normally, we don't, in Algebra 1, we don't keep the 1 part. We just do a negative x. Okay, for this line. This is the line, either x equals something or y equals something. You need to remember which one that is. Take a second and think about it. That is the line y equals what? It's 1, 2, 3. That is the line y equals 3. And that's it. So these are the equations of the 3 lines over here. You put it in slope-intercept form. If you know M and B, you just write it down. If you don't know M and B, you're going to have to find it by looking, counting, extending the line, whatever it is you need to do. So this if part, okay, this is where we say if x is whatever. So if you go back to the one from before, going backwards, you say where the piece is. X is less than something, x is greater than something. So here on this 2x plus 3 line, that was our first one on the left, right? We go to the x-axis, and we see where that is. It's a 1. If you look, that's a 1 on the x-axis. So I go ahead and write that down. Is that open or closed? Open. Left or right? Left. So it's 2x plus 3 if x is less than 1. Let's look at this second one. That's the middle one. Right here. That's in between 2 of them. So if you remember, the fancy way to write in between in math is number less than x less than number, or less than or equal to, depending on the problem. So this x is in between 1 and 2. So you go smaller to larger. They were both closed, and it was in between 1 and 2. Remember, it's always got to go less, less, smaller to larger. We've already done this. Now this last one on the right, what x does this start with? 1, 2. It starts at 2. So I say x and 2. Is it open or closed? Open, left or right? right. So you need to take a minute, look at this one again, pause it, play it again, but all we're doing is going backwards from the one before it. They gave us a graph, and we said what the lines were, and we said what pieces of the line were shown. Let's try the next one. So this is just like number 1 again. We're going to graph x plus 2 if x is less than 0, x if x is greater than or equal to 0. We'll find domain and range later. Remember, f of x is really a y. So if you want to, I'm going to erase the domain and range part. If you want to, let's just pull this apart. Let's look at just one thing at a time. Let's just graph y equals x plus 2. That should be easy for you. Where do you start? You start up 2, and then what? Up 1, right 1, or down 1, left 1. You make the best line that you can lightly because you're going to erase parts of it, right? That's the whole point of this. I sure hope you guys can draw a better line than I can on here. There we go. Perfect, okay? Now, I'm going to finish with that line. It says go on the x-axis to 0. Then it says an open circle. So on the x-axis where it's 0 is right here, but you go to your line. You don't stay on 0, you go to where it hits your line. So that's at 2. Is that going to be open or closed? Open. So I need to make that an open circle. Open. And left or right. They want the left side. So I'm going to erase everything on the right side. That is the only thing you should have is the left side of that line. Why don't you try this one without me? Y equals x. Try to graph that. If you don't remember, it's really like x plus 0. So we start on our y-axis. Our b is 0, so we start at 0. From there, you go up 1, right 1, or down 1, left 1. Make a light line. Mine erases itself, so I'll have to figure that out later. But then you go on the x-axis to 0 on your line. Well, that is 0. That's okay. Open or closed? Closed. Left or right? Right. So I'm going to erase everything on the left side. So do you see what we just did? We graphed the two lines, and we erased the pieces of them that they didn't want. Last one. Write an equation for the piecewise function. So I went ahead and set this up. The graph would already be given to you. And then this is what we need to fill in. You don't necessarily have to do the blanks and everything that I do, but that helps me remember, okay, here are my lines, here's the equations of the line, and here are my x's something. So take 2 seconds, pause this, try to figure this out. Okay, so usually we go left to right, like I said. I'm going to erase this extra stuff for right now so it's not quite so confusing. I'm going to finish one line at a time. So I'm going to look at my left line first. We don't know what B is yet, but we can find M. They gave us 2 ordered pairs, so let's find M. Looks like it's down 1 and right 3. So I know that that's negative 1 over 3x. Now I need to find my B. If I keep going down 1 and right 3, isn't my B negative 2? Yes. If you look, down 1, right 3, down 1, right 3. So the slope of the equation of this line is negative 1/3 x minus 2. That's a little bit close for me. Now we have to do the if part. If x is something, we don't know, we have to look at it. The first x that you see on this line is at negative 3. So I write x and negative 3. That is a closed circle going left. So you say less than or equal to negative 3. Try the next one, the middle one. This is the line, just y equals 2. So all you need is y equals 2. Those are the easy ones. Don't get confused on those. It's in between two answers. The x's are in between negative 3 and positive 1. So the way you write that is negative 3 to x to 1. These are both open, so there's no line. It's just negative 3 less than x less than 1. Let's find the equation of this line. Again, we don't know b. It's not crossing the y-axis yet, but if we find m, we can figure it out going backwards. So let's look at this. It looks like it's up 1, 2, 3, 4, and right 1. So our slope is 4 over 1, and then you have the x behind it. I don't write the over 1 because that's not really finished. So if I were to go up 4, right 1, it's the same as down 4, left 1. So let's go down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and left 1. This would be our b if we were to continue that line. So it's minus 1. Now where does it start? It starts on the x-axis at 1. So I write x, a 1, that's a closed circle to the right. So greater than or equal to 1. I know this seems like a new thing for you, but it's really not that bad if you pull everything apart. If you're graphing it, graph the whole line, erase the piece they don't want. If you already have the graph, say the equation of the line, and say the pieces that they gave you. The idea is pretty simple. If you have to, I didn't want to write it before, but if you want to, extend this line on your own. Down 1, 1, 2, 3, down 1, 1, 2, 3. And then I see, oh, my b was 2. If you have to extend this line, up 4, right 1, I'm going to erase what I had before so I don't get confused. Go down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and left 1. Oh, my b was negative 1. You can extend the lines if you need to, if that's easier for you. Take a moment, write some questions down in your question column. Make sure your questions are specific. Don't just say, I don't get it, okay? So you should know how to graph a line by now. The piecewise is a little bit new to you. Domain and range we'll talk about the next time, but for now I think that's plenty of information. So really take your time. If you need to watch this one again, please do so and ask questions when you come back.